Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Leigh Spann.
That's right. You are joining us in the WFLA Now Stream Center for the very first time for our new show called Run for Fun. I'm, of course, meteorologist Leigh Spann, but as you just heard, I'm also a running enthusiast. And so it really, in the past few years, I found such joy in the running community. And I talked with my managers and I talked with folks here at WFLA and said I would really like to help share that passion and that joy with as many people as possible. So we called it Run for Fun because we like to have fun with running, and that's just something that the vast majority of the people doesn't seem to think that that can be an option. And so one of the people that helped me learn to run for fun is Tampa running coach Maria Williams. So Maria is joining us for this episode. I also want to thank her because she gets so many people not only off the couch, but running for their entire lives. I mean, this is not something that you have to stop when you're young.
No, I actually have runners. My youngest runner is 14 and my oldest runner right now is 70.
And we just had a 66-year-old run the Philly Marathon. Yeah, you have her best time ever.
It was so amazing. Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Leigh. I'm excited. I'm mildly terrified, but I'm still excited. I guess I make you do hard things. You make me do hard things, right?
That's right. Maria always makes us do hard things. And again, I did choose this name, Run for Fun, because the people who maybe occasionally run, and certainly people who never run, think that it's an oxymoron, that you can't possibly run and have fun. I mean, in some sports, it's the punishment for doing bad things.
It's so sad. There's so many athletes learn that running is bad because they have to do suicides after they do something wrong in sports. And I'm always like, can we use a different form of punishment? Because it doesn't have to be that way. And then we all just, we all become frustrated with running. So I'm trying to change people's view on that.
And she certainly brought a whole group of us together along the way, and we really appreciate that. If we've laughed about the number of times people have said, if I only run if someone's chasing me.
Yeah, that's very true.
So we are, we want to make this is part of the reason we named it Run for Fun, is because we want people to see that it can be something that you don't have to dread, that you can look forward to it. Because it's not going to hurt if you do it right. It's just, you ease into it. This is, you wouldn't, like with a gym, you wouldn't just go in and pick up the biggest weight.
No. And there's this expectation that you have to be hurting if you want to run correctly. And that's just, it's a misnomer. It's not true.
So one of the things that we want to do just today is talk a little bit about how Maria and I came to even find the sport of running, because people come to it in different ways, earlier, later in life. Mine was a little bit later in life. So that's going to be sort of in our run down as to what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about who we are, why we started running, and how, in fact, it can be fun. So I'll start with my story because I feel like it might be a little bit, I don't know.
I don't know, honestly, if I've ever heard your story on how you started running. So I'm excited about this.
Well, let's see. I was not an exerciser. I mean, I literally didn't really think about it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm not running or I'm not exercising. I just didn't. I was, had gotten out of college and I was just doing my thing, enjoying life. And, toward the end of my 20s, that begins to catch up with you a little bit. So clothes weren't fitting as well as I wanted them to. And so I thought, okay, well, there's my little condo complex had a small gym with 2 treadmills. I was like, okay, I'll go walk on this treadmill. So I started, walking and kind of increasing the speed a little bit, increasing the distance over time. And so I'd gotten up to about 4 miles. I mean, I can remember going home and talking to my husband and saying, I did 4 miles on the treadmill today. And he was even, that's forever. It was about that moment when one of my friends who lives in Raleigh, North Carolina, told me that she was going to run a half marathon. And I just said, okay, I'll do that with you. Wow. Meaning that I was going to go from walking 4 miles to walking 13 miles. I thought if I can learn to walk 4,
that's a great idea.
So I went to the interwebs and I was like, how do you train for a half marathon? And so they're readily available, some online ways to do it. And basically I found the easiest way. Each week you increase 1 mile.
That's good.
So I went from 4, 5 to 6, and I followed that through. Let's see. So in August, it's about a 12-week program. So it's August, September, October, and I got a lot of my motivation came from this is a project, and I'm really good at projects. So I thought, okay, all I have to do is get through these 12 weeks, do this half marathon, and I never have to do it again. I could do something else with my
And
life.
so they say.
So they say. So, it's hot, it's humid. I'm still spending most of my time on the treadmill. And every now and then I'd be like, let's try running. So I'd like do the little running motion.
So bravely.
I wasn't going any faster, I don't think, when I made the running motion, but I was making the running motion. And if I were ever outside, I'd be like, okay, let me just run to the stop sign or whatever. And as I got closer to the half marathon, which is going to be in Raleigh, first weekend in November that year, every time I looked at the forecast, it was colder and colder and colder. Now, as a seasoned runner, makes you really excited.
Yeah.
As someone
But
who
walking is colder than running.
yeah, and I didn't even have clothes.
Note to self: if you want to be warm, run.
Yes, and that is actually what I ended up doing. Let me get to what I'll do is I'll take you to what I look like during the. Let's see if I can get to that graphic. There we go. So this is the day of the race.
Young Leigh.
I had to buy a hat, and mittens, and long sleeves, and lined up at that half marathon. Still thinking, okay, this is it. This is my project. I did, 3 months. This is my project. That you see, I'm eating a power bar. It was frozen. It was like I barely bite through it. That's why I look so sad. I couldn't even eat my power bar because it was frozen. And as Maria said, you don't get as warm when you're walking. And so during my training, I had done small little, jogging motions. But during this 30-degree race,
that's freezing.
I had to, yes, I mean, it really was freezing. And so I had to, my running jaunts got a little longer and a little longer. And I think I actually probably ended up running about a third of it. And here I am at the finish line. It was clear that this would not be a one and done. And so this was November of 2010. And by February of 2011 for the Gasparilla Distance Classic, I ran the whole thing. So
wow.
That's how I came into running. And so really fell in love with it during a half marathon because I thought I'm really good at projects, right? So I could do this project and go on with my life. And then
it is kind of the nice thing about running.
Yes.
I mean, you can just eke a little bit out each week and feel like you've got all these little accomplishments that, that is part of a bigger thing.
And a lot of times, some more type A people, like I unfortunately have to fall into that category. It's good for us because every milestone can be something that you can track and monitor.
Absolutely.
Or you can just get out and run. You don't have to be a type A person. We know we have plenty of our friends who baffle me by going out without digital watches and things like that because running can be a little different for every person.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we didn't have watches when I started running. So.
I did run that one with just a Timex where I would have to say like, okay, that mile when I passed the mile marker was this. And now we have a lot more. So now you did start earlier because again, I was in my late 20s, nearly 30 years old when I did the first half marathon. You did start a little bit earlier, but it wasn't something like neither of us came into running as like a child.
Oh yeah. Actually, I myself was, I was a little overweight as a kid. Not really before puberty, but after puberty, I was a little bigger than the other kids. I was what I like to call pleasantly plump. But I was uncomfortable enough in my own skin that I hated gym class. I'm not gonna lie. The presidential fitness awards and all that stuff used to drive me crazy, and I had to walk a lot in a lot of those. So I became very embarrassed about doing anything physical. I couldn't play sports really, but I did play a mean flute. That was my thing.
And you are a performer. I mean,
yes,
you
I'm a
sing,
performer, yes.
you play instruments, but being physical is something new to
it was
you.
foreign to me. I didn't grow up with it. My mom's a voice teacher. She's a phenomenal voice teacher, and she taught me everything I know. And so that's what I focused on. I was a music girl. Both my brother and sister played sports, and I didn't. So when I left for college, I started trying some new things, and that's kind of fun when you go to college and you get a little bit more self-esteem and you're kind of, dipping your toes in new things. And I gained the freshman 15, which was like very, very uncomfortable. And I had a job working as a nanny. And the woman that was my boss, she was very physically active. She was a triathlete. And she kind of took me under her wing and kind of told me about running. And then but I still thought it was kind of crazy for me to even try to do anything physically active. But my roommate in college, who was also my best friend, she was a cross-country runner in high school, and I'd always really looked up to her. She just was always really strong and could do anything and wasn't afraid of anything. And I was just very afraid of it. So she convinced me one day to just go out with her on a run. And boy, that run was terrible.
So did she slow down for you? I mean, clearly she was a fast runner. Did she make it easier on you or did she just take you out?
She did. She stayed with me. I did a lot of walking that first run. In fact, in college, the road by my college was called Grapevine Road, and it was 2 miles long. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to make it to the end of this. I'm never going to make it to the end. And so I would just run to the mailbox, and then I'd walk for a little bit, and then she'd say, okay, let's try again. And then I'd run a little bit and walk. And then I started to get energy. It gave me energy after I got back. I was like, oh, I'm feeling really good. This is really exciting and fun. And I'm feeling like I can do something. And so I kept going out with her. And she was real patient with me. And I'll never forget the first time I ran that whole road. Grapevine Road, it will be in history, my favorite run. Like I went all the way to the end, and I was like, I ran 2 miles without stopping, and it was amazing.
2 miles. It's amazing what these little milestones mean to you, because once you get there, you never have to look back. You never have to never run 2 miles before.
Yeah.
You never look back.
Yeah, and honestly, from there, I started to lose weight, which really felt good to me. I felt stronger. I was more confident. In things that it made me try things I never would have tried before because I was more physically active and I just wasn't afraid of it anymore. So I started biking, I started swimming, and I mean, if you asked anybody in high school, if you told them what I was doing now, they would be like, huh? Not her. She faked an asthma attack to get out of a hiking trip. What are we talking about? But it changed my life. It changed my life.
And I think that's what we're going to try to do with this show is that just because it wasn't something that was a part of your life before doesn't mean that you can't find it or fall in love with it.
Absolutely.
Because it certainly, it became not only your passion, but your profession.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you do for a job now, is to help people do exactly what your cross-country friend, your best friend did for you.
Yeah. To be honest, I didn't even run a race for 9 years. I ran for 9 years. I got to the point where I was running 6 miles a day. I ran 6 miles on my wedding day. I just went out for an hour every day. And all I knew was I was running a 6 mile loop in 1 hour. So that's all I knew. For 9 years I did that. And then I started, having kids. I got married and had kids. And then I had to lose baby weight. So I started biking and swimming again. And actually my first big race was a marathon, which is kind of crazy. You don't usually do that, but I had been running for 10 years.
And so that's what you're seeing here on the left-hand side if you're watching us.
That's the Chicago Marathon in 2005. That was my, and I just ran. I didn't do any speed work. I was just wanted to see what I could do. I followed a plan online, good old Hal Higdon.
Hal Higdon, that's what I did.
And I did get hurt. I got really hurt, and I couldn't run for the last 4 weeks before the race. I didn't think I was even going to be able to do the race, which is actually not surprising when you don't know what you're doing, because I didn't know what I was doing. But what a sense of accomplishment when I did it.
26.2 miles. I mean, the smile that you saw me after 13.1, I mean, the smile, there's nothing quite like that. That is what keeps people coming back to the sport of distance running, is the way you feel at the finish line.
Yeah. And then the other picture is 2006. That was one of my triathlons, and I really got back into triathloning mostly before I started running. And that's me with my kids,
who are now both in college.
They're both in college. I know.
And you have inspired them to be athletes. I mean, they're both very good,
and
very strong.
funny enough about that, They both, I never pushed them to run. And mostly because in Florida, it can be difficult to run and it can be hot. And I know I never wanted it to be something that was punishment for them. So I really cautioned them against running as a sport. They were both swimmers. I wanted them to keep it fun, selfishly for me, because I wanted running partners when they get older. But I also want it to be something that they can do as a backup to swimming, to keep physically fit. They both really love it now. In fact, Abby told me when she came, well, she's coming home today from UCF. She goes to UCF, and she said, "Mom, what are we doing for a Turkey Day trot?" I'm like, "I'm not doing a turkey trot this year. We got people coming up." She said, "Well, what do you mean we're not doing a turkey trot?" And I said, "Ab, when's the last time you ran?" Well, I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks ago. I'm like, "Okay." Well, we can still run, honey. We'll just run. We'll run for Turkey Day.
We'll trot it. We'll trot on our own.
We're doing a turkey trot on our own.
Well, and that, there's so much going on. She's a freshman at UCF, so there's a lot going on. But the fact that she still wants to come home to mom and go running,
exactly.
It's clearly it's an important.
It's mission accomplished.
Yes.
I feel like.
And so we'll go back to. So now, so this 2005, 2006, these pictures that we're looking at here, where you were really in, gaining the love for the sport of racing and things like that. How did you become then knowing that this wanted to be more of your profession and train other people to do it?
Oh, that's a good question. We moved to Memphis, and I was an aerobics instructor. I did personal training, and I loved it. It was great. It was part-time work while my kids were little. And I met a woman who was my first coach, actually, and she's still a very good friend of mine. She lives in Wisconsin. Her name's Brenda, and she taught me how to run correctly. She taught me how to keep my easy runs easy. She taught me how to speed up the right way so I wasn't hurting myself. And she kind of took me under her wing, and I realized, I'm like, wow, like she said to me, "You can qualify for Boston." And I laughed at her. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, that's not in my wheelhouse. It's just not in my wheelhouse." And she's like,
which is a very difficult thing to do.
Yes.
If you're listening to this, that's sort of, you're at the top of your game if you can qualify for Boston.
I thought it was silly. And she said, "Well, just watch." So, and honestly, she changed my life in that she believed in me. And I really realized at that point, if everybody has somebody that believes in them, they can accomplish more than they ever thought possible. Because it only takes somebody believing in you long enough until you believe in yourself. And so she believed in me until I did it and believed in it myself. So that's kind of where my profession came in. I said, I came from the overweight girl that didn't run and wasn't able to do it. And I did things that I never thought were possible. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. That's why I started my business.
And I know there's people who, would walk it through fire for Maria, because if she said, "Come on, I believe that we can walk through fire," there is a whole group of people who will walk through that fire with you.
It's exciting for me. Like, this is the best part of my business. Like, people tell me all the time, "Oh, Coach, I can't do that." I'm like, "Okay, you think you can't, but you can."
And you've done, now that you do the research, you find out what's the best way to get people from, where they were, which sometimes it can either be the couch or it can be overtrained where their muscles are broken down.
Yeah.
And you have to bring them back to a sort of zero start. Either way, they're from zero, maybe they have done nothing, up to where they can run, or they've gone too far and now you need to bring them back to where they can be healthy again. And that's kind of, we'll transition now. We're toward the end of our first episode here, Maria, but that's what we also want to bring to you guys as you listen. We'll be here every Tuesday morning, and we have a list of topics that's going to make running accessible to you, from what to even know before you buy shoes, because the most expensive might be the worst shoe for you. So when people ask, "What shoe do you wear?" It's like, well, that's not what I wear. It might be really terrible for you.
What should I eat? What should I do? Like, there's so many little things in running that, especially for me who's been doing it now for 23, 24 years, I take for granted because I just know it. But the questions that I get are they're easily answered, and they're easily ways that can help people be successful without fearing it. A lot of the fear in running is because we just don't know how to do it properly. And if you think about sports in general, nobody ever thinks about getting a running coach. But
Right.
the reality is people have tennis coaches, people have football coaches, people have basketball coaches. Why wouldn't you have a coach that teaches you how to do it correctly so that you can, stay with it longer?
And be better than you think you can be.
Yeah.
I mean, like some of the things Maria tells me to do, I go, well, I'll just never be able to do that. And then lo and behold,
Yeah,
you
and I
just
have
do
some
it.
of my clients, like Michael Wilsey always makes me laugh because he says, I'm a lifer coach. And I'm like, yeah, what does that mean, Michael? And he's like, well, it means I want to run till I'm 90. And if I have to go slower at getting better because I want to run till I'm 90, the lifestyle that running has given me has brought so much joy to my life that I never want to live without it, which is all I ever want for all of my clients.
And I want to show a couple more pictures as we say goodbye. This is me and Maria having some fun at races. The high five one, that was us finishing my second marathon.
Charleston.
The Charleston. It was
Yeah.
very warm in January.
Yeah.
And then the other was just after a 5K. I mean, the thing is we have a lot of fun, and that's what we want to help.
If you're not having fun in your hobby, why are you doing it?
It's a hobby. None of us are making money off this at this point. So
it is the most important thing in running is to make it fun. You've got to make it fun. You got to find your community. You got to find the people around you that can help you bring joy to your sport.
And if you have a question about it, thousands of other people do. I mean, I did a quick poll in the studio when I was thinking of ideas, and people who don't run were like, what about this? Should I do it in the morning? Should I run in the evening? How do you lose weight? What do you do for, when do you drink water? And I was like, that's a lot of questions. I didn't know I was going to get so many questions. So if you ever have a question, we want you to ask those questions because thousands of other people have those questions as well. And so going forward, every Tuesday, the Run for Fun with Leigh will be on WFLA.com. It'll also be on our app. It's on YouTube TV, and it'll be on our Max Defender 8 app as well. And more importantly, for the runners and the walkers out there, we are also podcasts. So you can listen to it on Apple Podcast or on Spotify. But we're just excited to be able to start this venture. It's something I've never done anything like this before. Maria's never done anything like this before. But it's something that means enough to us that we want to share this passion with people.
And if you're walking now, great.
That
is the first step to doing it, is getting out there and walking and creating a discipline so that you can move further. You don't ever have to run if you don't want to. Walking is just great. It's great exercise. You can have fun doing that too.
And we will go through any questions that come to us. You can also just email me at lspan@wfla.com. But thank you to Maria for helping me learn this passion in this sport. And I hope that we can inspire others as well.
Thanks.